Guys, welcome to Black Scout Survival Late Night Live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something your government would really prefer you just scroll on past. The government just reopened. The circus lights are back on, and on the same day, they crank the machine back up, and we get a dump of Epstein emails that raise serious questions about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Now, I'm not here to parrot Democrat talking points. I'm not here to push CNN narratives. I'm here to read the actual documents. Look at the timing. Look at the political behavior on both sides and ask the question nobody in D.C. wants to ask. Who is protecting who? Why does it feel like the truth is the one thing everybody's afraid of? So let's dig in. Now, number one, first quick battlefield picture. After playing the chicken shutdown game and pretending they were going to hold the line, Congress magically finds a way to reopen the government. Shocking, right? The money laundering never actually stops. But while everyone's clapping for themselves, House Democrats release a small batch of emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Communications between Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and various journalists and political figures. Then within hours, like clockwork, House Republicans answered by dropping 23,000 pages of Epstein-related documents of their own. Not because suddenly they love transparency, but because they're trying to control the blast radius and spin. And obviously it can drown out, 23,000 pages could really drown out a few emails that look pretty bad. So you've got two wings of the same vulture trying to weaponize the same dead pedophile for political points, while at the same time limiting what you actually see. Right? That alone should tell you, man, something's off about this. Okay, let's start off with email number one. Okay, the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. All right, first email here. This one is between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2011. Epstein is frustrated that certain people haven't come up in the press or in investigations, and he writes a line that should make every American stop and think. He says, in essence, that the dog hasn't barked is Trump. And then a redacted victim's name, spent hours at my house with him, and he never once has been mentioned. Well, let's be precise here. Epstein is pointing out that a specific victim named Blacked Out spent hours at the house with Trump present. And he's stunned that despite all the law enforcement, the press, the political heat, Trump's name has never been dragged into that particular detail. Now, that doesn't automatically mean that Trump committed a crime, but it absolutely means the narrative, oh, yeah, I barely knew the guy. I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. No big deal, is not really the whole story, right? This is Epstein himself asking, why is nobody asking about Trump? That's not a left-wing blog. That's not a TikTok activist. That's the guy at the center of the operation wondering why one very powerful dog never barked. Now, email number two. Of course he knew about the girls, they say, right? Pop up email number two here. Fast forward to 2019. Epstein is emailing Michael Wolff, the journalist, and he's talking about a victim who worked at Mar-a-Lago. Epstein writes something to the effect of, Trump said he asked me to resign, that I was never a member. Of course he knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine to stop it. Now let me translate that into plain English. Epstein is saying, Trump publicly claims I kicked Epstein out of, that he was barely around and not a member. I dumped him when I found out. But privately, Epstein is talking to a friendly journalist that Trump knew there were girls involved and asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop whatever was going on. Okay, again, that doesn't automatically convict Trump of a specific crime or puts him in the ring. But if true, it means that Trump knew something shady was happening around Epstein and Maxwell. His public stories, I just threw him out in the story, is cleaner than the reality. There was enough going on that a future president had to tell Ghislaine Maxwell to just knock it off, not kick him out, ask him to knock it off, okay? So coming out and saying, hey, just knock it off is meaning that you would not turn it over to the FBI like Mike Johnson tried to say that he was an informant, because you would go turn it over. Me personally, if I knew, being the man I am, something of this magnitude was going on, I would try to get this person convicted, because I honestly, no, I wouldn't. No, I would go full-blown Punisher on these people is what I would do. But let's just say I'm not who I am and I'm just a regular guy. I would probably get the authorities involved and get them knocked down. Okay. Get the wood chipper out, That's not it's nothing, man. That's just boring stuff. That's not what that is. That you knew something was going on. You told them to knock it off. They would have no reason to lie during this time either. And you can't go back in time and make up these emails, okay? Now, the other emails. There's some between, let me make sure I've got the right ones here. Not here. I think this is the one. These are various ones, but I don't think I have the third one here. But basically, it talks about Epstein and Michael Wolff, this time back in 2015 during the campaign, right before CNN is asked about Trump, about his relationship about Epstein on air. Let me flip through here and make sure I don't have that, because I did see that. Essentially, we'll get to these other ones here in a moment, but he asked that Trump on air about his relationship with Epstein. Epstein asked Wolff, if I were to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? And Wolff basically replies, let him hang himself. If he lies, he says he hasn't been to the plane or on the house that gives you political currency. If it looks like he might win, you can save him and he'll owe you. Think about it. A journalist, someone supposed to speak truth and power, is gaming out whether to let Trump lie and keep that lie as leverage, blackmailing like these scoundrels do, or step in later and say, I saved you and created debt. That is not journalism. That is called tradecraft. That is how blackmail economies work. It tells you two things, though. Epstein's circle believed that Trump had been on the plane and in the house. Otherwise, they'd say nothing about hanging himself. The powerful media figures don't just report truth, man. They bank lies as collateral. And that's what you've seen happening in real time here, okay? So when you look at the triangle, Epstein, Trump, and the friendly media, you're not looking at a simple random party photo from 2002 that we see the video reoccurring of. You're looking at potential mutually assured destruction. Everybody has dirt on everybody. And whoever goes first risks blowing the whole network. So there's a few more emails in this batch, okay, that show how far Epstein's influence extended and how Trump's name sits in the middle of it. Trump's name is constantly reoccurring, maybe because he's running for president. They thought they could blackmail him, use him for leverage. One email is where Epstein appears to be advising a European official on how to handle and understand Trump, talking about conversations with Putin, who supposedly got Trump after Epstein explained him. Okay, I think this is the one here. Let me verify. And you can see here, I think he makes argument this Trump's money, making it illegal. This is talking about dirty money here. Maybe this is the one. He goes in here talking about an assistant with high-level work. I think you might suggest to Putin, Lavrov, can get insight talking to me. So this is the one where it talks about the Russian diplomat Putin and that he got Trump after Epstein explained him. So we see those there. Then there's another one from New York Times finance reporter Landon Thomas Jr. warning Epstein in 2017 that NYPD investigators were poking around and asking Trump-related questions, obviously because Trump is Donald Trump's high crimes and misdemeanors, because Trump's obviously president at this point. Okay, so they're trying to get Trump. Again, none of this proves specific criminal acts. This talks about him inferring that he's making money illegally. It makes no difference whether it was his money, issue his failure to disclose, plus the fact that he has lied his ass off about how it makes it clear that he knew it was illegal. So that's what these are saying, okay? And you can screenshot these and read these for yourselves. But and I would suggest you do so. Again, none of that proves any specific criminal acts, but it paints a bigger picture that Epstein was still active in 2017, 2018. He is advising foreign players on how to manage Donald Trump, who is at that time president of the United States. Journalists are feeding him heads up about law enforcement probes that might touch both of them. This is the influence network type of behavior, not some random social acquaintance. Now, we see here, this is the NYPD one talking about that they're digging around and why you hired Ken Starr and so on, Trump-related digging. This is the NYPD, the Landon one I was telling you about. And then there's another one here that talks about, I'm serious, man, for the good of the nation, why not try to get some of this out there? I would not do it myself, but would pass it to a political reporter. Plus, look at these lies. It says talking about seeking the message left seeking the Trump campaign's comment on the article. General Alan Carter Garland emailed threatening legal action against BuzzFeed News. Mr. Trump's only connection with Epstein was Mr. Epstein was one of the thousands of people who visited Mar-a-Lago. That's it. Never accused him as a result. And so you go down here. It says, now everyone's coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you and Trump. It says, would you like photos? This is coming from Epstein. Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? Okay, that's coming from Jeffrey Epstein. He's telling Landon Thomas that he can provide photos of Donald Trump with women in a bikini in his office. I'm sorry, in his kitchen. Not a good look. Not a good look, right? So, you know, Donald Trump has, what does he say about this? He says, look, man, this is boring stuff, right? And, you know, he says, release everything. Let the chips fall where they may. No sacred cows, justice for the victims, I guess, right? No, Trump calls the whole Epstein question pretty boring stuff. And again, uses the word hoax. Okay, check it out.
Justice Department is also sending some of the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release,
people shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. You know, people.
He doesn't look too enthusiastic about being asked this stuff. He says it's pretty boring stuff. And the fact is that, I mean, shouldn't hurt people involved in it. Yeah, I mean, there may be some just random people in there, but it's probably some buddies.
Because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have Larry, whatever his name is, Summers, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about it.
He says, I want to bring Bill Clinton stuff up. I do. I want everybody that's been on that island brought up.
About that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers.
I do. I want to hurt him.
Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past.
I keep hearing that, the 600,000 Chinese and so on, I guess. So the press secretary today, Karen Levitt, echoes the same line, saying it's basically a Democrat manufacturing job, and flipping it back to, well, why didn't Joe Biden release anything when he was in office? Okay, check it out.
Why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. And it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden. because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
It's true. That was said. Now, here's the problem. Biden absolutely, he was a swamp creature and had his own swamp creature issues, no question. And there definitely were Democrats on those pages, but Biden was not partying at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein. He wasn't in the flight logs. The only guy who was close friends with Epstein and that's sitting in the White House currently is Donald Trump. Previous to that, Bill Clinton. Okay. So when Trump calls this a hoax, I'm not hearing strength. I'm hearing panic management. If you're totally clean, you'd say release everything. I have nothing to hide. Let the country see who's involved. He's not doing that. And then it brings up the next layer on top of this is the report that came out about Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace. According to the reporting that's now circulating, Trump personally called Boebert and Mace and urged them to withdraw their signatures from a petition to fully release Epstein files. Boebert reportedly refused, catching heat now, but she's standing on, let it all out. Nancy Mace, who happens to just be running for governor of South Carolina and would love a Trump endorsement, didn't take a call and hasn't answered questions directly. So my thought is Nancy Mace will try to protect the Epstein files because she wants Trump's endorsement for governor. Check it out. When she gets Trump, because she was not getting Trump's endorsement, more than likely Alan Wilson would have gotten it, the Attorney General of South Carolina. But because she's running and she could maybe help seal those files, if he backs her, you know what's happening. You don't make calls like that about boring stuff. You make those calls when you're worried that full disclosure may blow back on you or your homeboys. And trying to keep control of which documents come out, when, and in what order, that is not the behavior of a guy or an administration that has nothing to fear. That is behavior of someone managing blast radius. Now, while all of this is going on, we get another little data point. Whistleblowers from the federal prison system says Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a minimum security facility named Club Fed. Report claims is that she's getting private outside meals, late night workout privileges, unsupervised visits with friends, laptop access, and even a puppy. She got a puppy. I'm not kidding. Go look at the news articles. She got a puppy. Now, obviously, that is some of that could be exaggerated, maybe, but the pattern is familiar. You have a woman convicted of recruiting and grooming girls for trafficking operations, and instead of rotting in a concrete box, she's living better than half of the veterans in the country. Why? Because the system is built on blackmail and compromise. People who hold secrets get treated very gently. And there are rumors, not facts, that she's been quietly signaling for a commutation of a reduced sentence from Trump. Does that mean he'll do it? Not necessarily. But if you connect the dots, Epstein dead under self-deletion that nobody believes. Maxwell's in a relatively cushy conditions. Prison footage that just has been edited. Trump calling the whole thing a hoax while trying to stop the release of the files. It doesn't feel like a system seeking truth. It feels like a system protecting assets. Now, I want to talk about Tom Massey because he's just said the quiet part out loud. Massey basically lays out the theory that Trump flipped on the Epstein files, that he went from I'll release them to this is a hoax and move on because maybe I'll let Thomas and Massey tell you.
He's flipped. One, his rich and powerful friends who've donated to him or go to his dinner parties. Like, he doesn't want to embarrass them. And because they may, in fact, not even be guilty of a crime. They may just be very embarrassed that they were having extramarital sex, you know, with these women, for instance. So that's one thing. But I think there's also the intelligence aspect of this that goes even deeper. Maybe Trump is on one plane and he's thinking, I can't embarrass my friends. But there may be people in the administration who are career people who are thinking on another plane. They're like, well, let's convince Trump he's going to embarrass his friends, when in reality what we're trying to do is protect our sources and methods, which may involve sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And we don't want to embarrass our partner, Israel, in this time when the popularity for their war or support for their war is at an all-time low. And now we're going to find out that their defense minister, Ehud Barak, you know, was documented with Jeffrey Epstein 36 times, probably even while he was defense minister. He had previously been prime minister. I don't know that he knew Epstein during that period. I'm not sure how much of those dates overlap, but there are reasons that they want to protect them. There's reasons he's flipped. And I don't think his children or J.D. Vance or even Pam Bondi or Kash Patel were read into all that when they originally said all of this stuff should be released. I mean, if it's a hoax, what were those binders that Pam Bondi gave out? Was she just fueling a hoax?
Yeah, great question. That's a question I've been asking as well. So maybe his rich friends leaned on him, career intel people briefed him up on how deep this goes, and maybe Epstein's still alive running operations, and that Epstein's operation was tied to intelligence networks using trafficking for blackmail, including foreign connections. On top of that, Thomas Massey is being ruthlessly attacked. Trump has asked mega donors to help unseat him. That doesn't sound like someone who's wanting full disclosure. But understand how big this is. This isn't some leftist activist. This is not a blue check journalist. This is a Republican congressman with a liberty streak. Basically saying, yeah, I think the president backed down because his blackmail web is bigger than expected. Maybe his name's in there a few times. When sitting member of Congress are openly talking like that, we're not in conspiracy theory land anymore. We're in elite panic land, okay? Now, here's where I land on this. And as a guy who spent his life around, you know, lots of experience in lots of things, not just some Reddit thread, right? Democrats want to weaponize Epstein just enough to hurt Trump, but not enough to expose everybody else is involved in those logs, like Bill Clinton and other homies on the Democrat side. On those islands are attached to those hedge fund money trails, right? JP Morgan, so on. Republicans want to protect Trump and certain donors while still pretending to be tough on trafficking and protecting children, even though they're voting for budgets that gut victim services and real anti-trafficking programs. You've seen Kash Patel, what they've been doing lately, and Pam Bondi saying they're arresting all these traffickers. Well, let's get the big guys. They're not touching this. They're showing you little guys. They're saying, look, we're serious on trafficking, but they're not really, right? They're going for the low-hanging fruit. Both sides are terrified of a true full spectrum release, trust me. Because a genuine, no redaction, no black bar dump of everything Epstein and Maxwell ever documented would not just hit a few politicians, it would hit CEOs, media figures, royals, generals, intelligence officers, philanthropists, and probably people whose faces are on the "We Support the Troops" billboards in your hometown. You're not supposed to see that. You're not supposed to even argue about which party cares more about the victims, while they all negotiate behind the scenes about what never comes out. That's why Trump is calling this a hoax. Bothers me, man. Not because I suddenly trust Democrats, because I don't. It bothers me because the one guy who ran on Drain the Swamp is now acting exactly like the swamp when the heat turns toward him and his inner circle. Now, what do you do with all this intel? You don't control the DOJ. You don't sit on the House Oversight Committee. You're not a Epstein client. You're not on the Epstein client list. So if you were to turn this video off and call your lawyer, right? But you do control how you live in a real world where powerful people use children as leverage, and don't think this is the only group of people that do that. Intelligence agencies run compromise operations, and both parties lie straight to your face while smiling and asking for donations. So here's the hard to kill mindset piece. Stop worshiping politicians. None of these people are your savior, not Trump, not Biden, not any of them. You can support policies without turning a man into a messiah. The second you put a politician on a pedestal, you'll ignore red flags that would get any normal man banned from your house. Protect your perimeter. The same elites who fly private planes to private islands are the ones pushing hypersexualized content into your kids' phones. Lock your kids' devices down. Know who they're talking to. Screen the adults around them. I'm talking coaches, mentor, online friends. Don't assume the system will catch predators. Epstein was the system. Study the tradecraft. Blackmail economies run on 3 pillars: access, documentation, and plausible deniability. Access, get powerful people in private places or spaces. Documentation, photos, videos, flight logs, emails like ones we just read. And then plausible deniability, enough fog that your supporters can say it's all a hoax. When you start seeing the pattern, you realize how many other stories look exactly the same. Build parallel trust networks. Stop relying entirely on institutions that have already proven they'll protect predators, big media, big government, and big tech. You build local, real-world networks, church, community, training groups, tribes of men and women who actually have something to lose if evil runs wild. Instead of people who only lose, or their only loss is bad public relations. Get your house in order. Evil systems thrive in a culture of weak, distracted, compromised people. You stay hard to kill by being disciplined physically, financially, spiritually. The more self-reliant you are, the less they can bribe you, scare you, or distract you with circus acts. Okay. Now, how I'll wrap this up is that Jeffrey Epstein may be dead, he may be alive, but the system that created him is very much alive. A system where a billionaire trafficker can host presidents, princes, and tech billionaires. A system where journalists strategize about letting those men lie on camera so they'll owe them favors later. A system where the women who groom the victims get a puppy in a private workouts while whistleblowers rot. And now we've got emails where Epstein himself is saying Trump spent hours at his house with a victim. He's got photographs of him with women, I don't know what age, in bikinis in his kitchen. Trump knew about the girls and told Ghislaine to stop it. Trump could be hung or saved depending on what he said on a CNN microphone. Now, you can decide for yourself what that means. I'm not telling you to switch parties. I'm not telling you to vote for anybody else. What I'm telling you is this: if your loyalty to a politician is stronger than your loyalty to the truth, you are already compromised. The victims of this thing, the kids who were used and discarded, they don't care what letter is after a man's name. They care that people who did it and the people covered it up see justice. Right now, it looks like the only people paying any price are dead, locked up in comfort, or safely retired. So drop a comment and tell me what you think these emails really show. Should all the Epstein files be released, unredacted? No one protected? Anyone, red or blue? And are you willing to follow the truth, even if it lands on your side? Your side. Because if you can't do that, you're not serious. You're not a serious country. We're just fans of rival jerseys cheering on your favorite corrupt franchise while the same owners profit off all of us, right? And speaking of all this hard to kill talk, I wore the sweatshirt last night. I wasn't going to release it yet, but because I got so many emails, it's on the website. I was going to tell you guys tonight. It'll officially launch tomorrow. Hard to kill desert camo, limited edition, flag on sleeve. It's thick, heavyweight for colder weather. But they're on site now because I got so many emails today. I went ahead and put it on the site. Anyway, guys, stay dangerous, stay awake, protect your family, and never, never outsource your morals to a man with a podium. Guys, this is your Late Night Live brief. Stay frosty, stay strapped, stay dangerous. I'll see you on the next one. Black Scout out.